Sagittarius warning. Something will happen in your home these days will bring a shocking event you won't believe. I know, there's something inside you that feels uneasy. Not because you're weak, but because your soul is sensing a major shift that's drawing near. Maybe you can't name it yet, but you can feel it, in the air. In your recent dreams, or in the way your home suddenly feels unfamiliar. And if you're a Sagittarius, someone born to step beyond limits, then listen closely. Because in the next few minutes, I will share with you a message that doesn't come from me, but from the universe itself. A turning point, an event that may seem random, is about to occur. And it won't just shake the roof over your head. It will awaken something you've forgotten. You were born to move beyond boundaries, not live trapped within them. If your heart is trembling, write this down. I am ready to receive the destined upheaval as a sacred transformation. That comment is not just a promise to yourself, but a way to align with the energy that's coming, guiding you towards something far greater than you've ever imagined. You know, I've spent over half a century under different roofs. Some were filled with laughter, others only with the ticking of clocks and a broken heart. But then I realized, a home is not just a place we dwell in. It's the place where we confront ourselves. And sometimes, what shakes the house isn't the storm outside, but the call from within. When your soul can no longer endure a life that's no longer honest. Sagittarius, you are someone who seeks truth. But truth isn't always out on the distant horizon. Sometimes, it's found in the way you live each day. In the things you continue to accept, even when you know they no longer reflect who you are. Maybe you've already felt that something is off in your home. The air feels heavier. Conversations grow tense. Old habits no longer bring you safety. Don't rush to label this as a breakdown. See it instead as an invitation. An invitation to step out of the cage you once built just to survive. The universe never takes anything from you without preparing a greater gift in return. And that gift often comes wrapped in upheaval. I once lost a home, not to a natural disaster, but because someone I loved walked away. The house remained, but my soul did not. For months after, I came home, turned on the lights, cooked dinner. But I no longer felt like I was truly living. And during that time, I learned something important. Sometimes, in order to find life again, you have to let yourself break. Sagittarius, you are the sign of expansion. Expanding consciousness, expanding borders, expanding the heart. You weren't born to remain trapped in any single definition. So if these days you're feeling lost in your own home, don't be afraid. Because maybe, you're not lost at all. You're being guided out of what no longer serves your growth. According to astrology, when powerful planets like Jupiter, your ruling planet, pass through the 4th house in your natal chart, it often stirs up invisible wounds related to family and roots. It doesn't come to punish. It comes to purify. When the 4th house is shaken, the universe is saying, it's time to rebuild your foundation, stronger, more honest. Do you remember what it felt like as a child, building a fort out of blankets and pillows in the living room? We called it, our little house. Because a house doesn't need strong walls. It needs a heart that believes. And now that you're grown, that truth still holds. Whatever the upheaval, loss, change, relocation, separation, you can still rebuild your inner home. A place where you can be yourself. Without fear. Without burden. Without needing to earn love. But for that to happen, you must dare to let go. Let go of the role you've been playing in that house. Let go of the guilt for wanting something different. Let go of the idea that, if I change, I'll hurt someone else. Sagittarius. The only person truly being hurt is you. When you keep staying in a version of yourself that no longer reflects who you are. I'm not saying you have to get a divorce. I'm not saying you have to leave. But I am saying this. You need to have an honest conversation with yourself. Am I still living true to the truth in my heart? If the answer is, I'm not sure, then it's time to listen. Not to the outside, but to the inside. To the dreams you've been having lately. To the sudden intuitions. To the unrest you feel when you walk into that familiar room. That's not disorder. That's intuition. The very thing the universe sends you to guide your way. In astrology, when Sagittarius is shaken by the 4 to 10 axis, home, career, you are being placed in a moment of reckoning. Between what is safe on the outside, and what is calling from deep within. And like every fire sign, you weren't born to choose safety. You were born to choose truth. The truth that your real home isn't a physical address. It's the state of your soul. Someone who once lost everything, their home, money, loved ones, once told me, I lost it all, but I still had myself. And from there, I rebuilt everything. You can do the same. Even stronger. Because you don't just have wisdom. You have fire. Don't underestimate the power of silent rebirth. Don't think a small change in your home, like moving your desk, switching bedrooms, or even just changing the curtains, is trivial. Because every shift in your living space is a metaphor for a shift in your consciousness. And the universe never acts randomly. In the next few days, you may receive a phone call that forces a decision. Someone may say something that shakes you. A person you trust may no longer stand by your side. But, if that happens, don't think you're being judged. You're being offered a new choice. And this time, the choice is yours. Sagittarius, if you're still listening now, I believe you are ready. Not just to receive the upheaval, but to transform it. Remember, the shake outside is only the echo of the awakening inside. And you are not alone. There are millions of Sagittarians around the world, standing at the same threshold. Afraid, uncertain, but filled with hope. If your heart is trembling because this resonates, write this down. I choose myself, and I trust the journey the universe has written for me. That's not just a sentence. It's the key to unlocking your new home. And if you feel this message holds meaning, share it with someone else who's also standing at a crossroads. Who knows? They might need one sentence, one reminder, one sign, to know that they're not walking alone. And neither are you. And you know what's strange, Sagittarius? The biggest changes in life rarely start with fireworks. They begin in silence. A glance that lingers. A night when you can't sleep. A moment, while cleaning your home, when suddenly, everything feels meaningless. You stand in a familiar room but feel completely empty inside. And then, a question rises. Is this still where I belong? Not everyone dares to face that question. But you do. You are Sagittarius. You don't live to avoid the truth. You live to seek it, even if it means walking away, starting over from zero, or letting go of what you once thought would last forever. I once read an astrological insight that said, when Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, transits the 4th house, you'll experience tremors in your foundation. But it's through those cracks that light enters. And I've seen this happen to hundreds of people, not to destroy their lives, but to bring them closer to their truest selves. You see, a home isn't a place where you force yourself to fit. It's the space where you're allowed to take off every mask. But if in that very space, you find yourself pretending to be okay, pretending to be strong, pretending to be loved. Then maybe it's time to ask, do I still call this place home because of habit, or because of love? The shake-up in the coming days might take you by surprise. It could be a small argument that leaves a deep fracture. A message, a decision from someone close to you. Or simply a quiet realization. I can't keep going like this. That is the signal. Not to flee, but to be radically honest with yourself. Maybe you stayed in a cold home for your children. Maybe you've endured a heavy atmosphere out of duty. But if you're hearing this now, I believe the universe is gently tapping your shoulder, whispering, you don't have to keep sacrificing. You have the right to live true to the voice in your heart. I know. That sounds like a lot. And yes, it's scary. But you don't have to change everything in one day. You only need to begin with one small thing. Acknowledge how you feel. You don't have to explain. You don't have to make it sound reasonable. You just have to be honest with yourself. I'm hurting, I'm lost, I want something different. And that honesty alone is something millions of people never allow themselves to say out loud in a lifetime. Because freedom, Sagittarius' greatest gift, isn't about how far you can go. It's about whether you can stay inside your own skin and not feel lost. The universe doesn't need you to become someone else. It only asks that you dare to be real. Even if others don't understand you. Because in the end, peace doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from no longer betraying your soul. And I say this with deep reverence to every Sagittarius going through this moment of change. Whether you are 45, 55, or 65, it's never too late to come home to yourself. Middle age isn't the end. It's the middle. Between memory and a future waiting to be reborn. You've lived a lifetime for others. Now, you are being invited to live a chapter for yourself. Close your eyes and ask just one question. If I were to begin again today, what would I want my home to be built upon? Truth? Love? Ease? Laughter? A space where no one demands you to be perfect? And when you find your answer, write it down. Or, if you're ready, leave it in the comments. I allow myself to rebuild the home of my soul, in a way I never dared to before. You may not know this yet. But what you share today could become the very first spark of light. For another Sagittarius walking through darkness. Because light was never meant to be kept for ourselves. And healing always begins the moment we dare to say, I deserve a place to call home, where I can be myself without the fear of losing anyone. And if you're still listening, that may be the clearest sign yet. That your soul is ready. Ready to step into a new journey. Not one on a map, but the inward path of transformation. And this time, you're not just seeking. You're freeing yourself. Most people, when they feel their home begin to tremble, their first instinct is to gather tools, call someone to fix it. They try to patch it up, hold it in, keep everything as it was. But Sagittarius isn't like that. You weren't born to tape over what has already rotted. You were born to ask the deeper question. Why is this happening? What am I being asked to learn here? And this is the true lesson. Sometimes, it's not the wall that's broken. It's the foundation, the way you've been living, loving, sacrificing, enduring, that no longer matches who you've become. Astrology calls this the root awakening. When the fourth house is activated, you can no longer keep living in an emotional structure that was built long ago. The patterns you learned in childhood. The lifestyle shaped by parents and society. Now, you're being called to dismantle them and redefine what home truly means. Write this down. I allow myself to rebuild from within, not out of fear, but from truth. The freedom you long for won't come if you don't dare let the old go. You know this better than anyone. Sagittarius. Freedom is your essence. But because you're generous. Because you love deeply. Because you are the bridge in the family. Maybe you've carried too much for too long. You believe that if you leave, someone will be hurt. You believe that if you stop being the optimistic one, the whole house will fall apart. But the truth is, you were not born to keep everything intact at the cost of losing yourself. True freedom doesn't come from escape. It comes from choosing to stay. But as your most authentic self. And if someone cannot accept that truth, maybe they never loved your true light. Only the version of you they could manage or control. If this resonates, comment below. I am not afraid to lose anyone, if the price is losing my soul. This is not the end. This is the in-between. The sacred pause before the great leap. Astrology taught me something beautiful. Between two major life cycles, there is always a silence. A space where everything seems to stop. This is the time when you feel you no longer belong to what was. But you haven't fully stepped into what will be. It's the most confusing stage. It makes you question yourself. Feel unanchored. Sometimes even hopeless. But I say this with all my heart. This is the holiest place of all. Because here, you will hear the voice of your soul most clearly. No longer distorted by expectations. No longer bound by roles. No longer needing to be the strong one. Only you remain. And that is enough. You may cry at night. You may feel more fragile than ever before. But eventually, you will find yourself more honest than you've ever been. And that truth will become the lever that lifts you into your next chapter. A chapter the universe has already written. Just waiting for you to turn the page. Write this somewhere, where you'll see it again. I accept this pause as sacred space, preparing me for my destined leap. One time, I spoke with a woman in her 60s. She had been in a marriage for nearly 40 years. When I asked her, "Do you feel loved?" she looked off into the distance and quietly said, "No, but I've gotten used to it." Do you see yourself somewhere in that answer? We were not born to get used to being unloved. We were born to live in wholeness. Where we don't have to shrink. Where we don't have to walk on eggshells to keep someone from getting angry. Where we don't have to swallow our tears just to keep the peace. A real home is a place where your soul can breathe fully. Not just your lungs, your soul. And if your current home doesn't give you that, maybe it's time to create a new space. Not necessarily by moving houses, but maybe by changing the way you show up inside it. Braver. More honest. Less apologetic. And if this resonates with you, write this down. I am learning to call in a soul home, where I can be myself. No permission needed. Peace doesn't come when everything is quiet, it comes when you're no longer at war with yourself. Here's the final question I want to leave with you. What are you still fighting inside yourself? What are you still trying to prove? And to whom? Are you still telling yourself, "I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't be selfish"? Sagittarius, you have given so much. And now it's time to learn how to receive. Receive gentleness. Receive the space you need to breathe. And most of all, receive the right to live your truth. If you're still listening right now, I just want to say one thing. I'm proud of you. And the universe is too. Not because you've been strong all the time, but because you've dared to sit down and listen to your soul. Something the world often forgets to do. And if this touched your heart, share it with someone who might also be struggling inside their own home. They may not say it out loud, but maybe, just one line in this message, will be a light for them in the middle of their fog. And finally, write this down as a spiritual commitment. I am ready to be reborn inside my own home, through light, through love, and through truth. I still remember the first time I heard a seasoned astrologer talk about the destiny of the fourth house in a birth chart. He said that when Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, touches the space of that house, nothing remains the same. Not because what was old is bad, but because the soul of a Sagittarius has outgrown the structure they once lived in. And when the soul grows, the old framework begins to crack. Not because of disaster, but because you are being invited into a larger space, both inside and out. From an astrological perspective, the fourth house represents home, roots, deep emotions, ancestral memory, and the unnamed fears you swallowed as a child. When this energy is activated, whether by a full moon, a new moon, or a powerful opposition, the one thing you must remember is this. This is not a time to resist or retreat. This is a time to look inward and ask, where am I living now? Where do I truly belong? And what kind of home do I want to build with my own hands? Not to please others, not to be a role model, but because I deserve to live truthfully. The change that's coming isn't here to frighten you. It's not here to take something away. It's here to help you see, clearly, that you no longer belong to the things that once held you back. You may find yourself angry for no reason. You may find your once familiar space now feels foreign. You may have a recurring dream about a place, a person, or a version of yourself you barely remember. And these aren't just dreams. They're messages from your soul. It's the radar of Sagittarius, always tuned to the light, trying to guide you. Even if you haven't packed your bags yet, you don't need to run away. But you do need to stop and ask yourself, am I feeling seen, heard, and truly touched, not just by others, but by myself? Because if the answer is no, then you don't need to keep maintaining a house made of bricks but lacking a heart. People often say, be grateful for what you have. And yes, gratitude is beautiful. But gratitude does not mean losing yourself. Gratitude does not mean silent endurance. Gratitude should never become a chain that keeps you stuck in something that's no longer healthy. Sagittarius is the sign of vision, of principle, of noble ideals. But in that pursuit, you often forget yourself. Because you think, I can take it, I'm generous, I can carry just a little more. But here's the question. Who will lift you up when you fall from carrying too much? Maybe you've gotten used to being the one who inspires others. The one who says kind things. The one who stays optimistic. The one who never cries in front of anyone. But if there's any place in life where you should never have to pretend, it should be your home. And if that home, whether physical or emotional, doesn't give you that feeling, then say it, boldly and clearly. I am ready to be reborn from the wreckage, even if I have to tear it down. I will rebuild with truth. Let me tell you something. Collapse only becomes a tragedy when we try to cling to it. But if you see it as the closing of an old cycle, it becomes a sacred invitation to step into something new. How many times have you stayed, just to avoid hurting someone? How many times have you silenced your inner voice to keep the peace? How many times have you chosen silence? Because you were afraid that speaking your truth would mean being left behind? But dear Sagittarius, there are moments when not speaking will leave you abandoned by your own soul. And no one should ever have to live in a house where they must leave their soul behind just to be accepted. So, when the unexpected event arrives in the coming days, whether it's a heated argument, a careless comment, or a moment that breaks you from the inside out. Remember this. This is not a collapse. This is an opening. The universe is swinging open a door. But you can only step through if you're willing to close the one behind you. No one can do that for you. No chart can show you the way if you're not willing to live with an open heart. Astrology isn't an unchangeable prophecy. It's a map. But the compass is always in your hand. And today, if these words are finding you, perhaps the universe is asking you to turn that compass. Not to run away, but to return. Return to a version of yourself you had forgotten. Strong, free, full of fire, and unapologetically true to your own path. Write this somewhere, you'll see it often. I'm not afraid of change. I'm afraid of living a life that doesn't belong to me. And if today marks the beginning of a new chapter, I'm ready to enter it. With awareness, with light, and with the faith that everything happening right now is not meant to hurt me, but to bring me closer to myself. If these words touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to someone you feel is walking through the dark. Because light was never meant to be hidden. And if you're still here, still listening, then you're not just someone seeking the light. You are the light. And we will meet again in the next chapter of this journey. A place where you no longer live to endure, but to be free, to be loved, and to be wholly yourself. Some things happen not so you'll understand right away, but so you'll slowly wake up. And sometimes, the universe doesn't lead you to the answer through comfort. It sends you a tremor, a shake, a storm, so that you realize you can no longer live inside what once fit you 10 years ago. The old house isn't bad, but it's no longer big enough for the soul you've become. It's like a pair of shoes that once fit, once felt safe, but now squeeze so tight, you can't walk any further. This is one of the biggest lessons I've ever lived through. For a long time, I lived in a house that was stable, comfortable, even admired by others. But only I knew that each night when I came home, I didn't recognize myself anymore. I didn't know why I was there. I no longer felt any excitement walking into the same familiar rooms. And then I realized it wasn't the house that changed. It was me. My soul had grown. Through pain, through scratches and setbacks. But it had awakened. Astrology calls this soul expansion. A process that often happens when Sagittarius faces Jupiter's return, or moves through the 4th or 12th house. It marks a shift into a new life cycle. The way you used to live no longer fits. And somehow, the universe will shake that old house, so you can begin rebuilding from within. So if lately, you've felt like you're walking through fog, don't panic. See it as a clear sign. You've outgrown the life that was built on fear, compromise, and performance. Sometimes, breaking is the only way you stay true to yourself. I know many people won't admit this. Because who would ever be grateful for a breakdown, right? But I'll say it, clearly and honestly. Some of my greatest breakings have saved my soul. Some separations, betrayals, moments when I thought I'd lost everything, ended up being the doorway to a new life. A life where I no longer had to compromise. For Sagittarius, the greatest lesson isn't how far you can go, but whether you have the courage to stop when you are no longer yourself. We are born with fire in our hearts. But if you keep that fire locked in a small container, one day, it will burn out. Not because someone extinguished it, but because you never gave it room to breathe. The lesson I've learned, and wish to pass on to you, is this. If life is asking you to let go of a certain home, don't see it as failure. See it as a sacred sign of a soul being reborn. Don't mistake the universe's silence as abandonment. It is the stillness where you hear yourself. Maybe you live in a house full of people, but still feel alone. Maybe you have everything, money, work, a relationship, but still feel empty. And you begin to wonder, is something wrong with me? But dear one, there is nothing wrong with you. You're simply touching a deeper layer of yourself. A layer society never taught us how to live with. A layer of intuition, soul, and quiet awareness. Sagittarius has a rare gift. You hear distant callings, not with your ears, but with your heart. So when the universe begins to pull back from you, when the things that once brought you joy feel meaningless, when the relationships you held on to stop responding the same way, that's not punishment. That's energy realignment. The universe is clearing space around you, so your soul can have room to grow. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what in me is being awakened? And you'll find, even in your quietest moments, the universe is still speaking. Through light, through time, through recurring dreams, through an unexplainable weariness, just strong enough to make you pause. No one can save you unless you give yourself permission to be saved. We live in a world that constantly says, just try a little harder. But I want to offer you a different message. Pushing through is not always strength. Sometimes, stopping is the bravest thing you can do. There are moments when the most courageous thing is admitting you're lost. There are relationships where the most mature thing is to walk away without bitterness. There are homes where the most powerful thing is to fold up the key and say, I'm grateful, but I need to go. No one can teach you how to do this, but the universe can guide you, if you're willing. And it all begins with one simple choice. Choose yourself. Not your ego. Not selfishness. But the decision to live true. To live real. To live awakened. If you're still here, if you're still listening, then I believe you're not just someone seeking the light. You are the light. And the universe is quietly leading you back to where you've always belonged. A home built with courage, truth, and unconditional love for who you really are. If what I said today touched something deep in you, write this down. I choose to live true to my soul, and I will not apologize for it. Or share this message with someone who you know is on their journey back to themselves. Because we weren't born just to live. We were born to awaken. And the journey home often begins with a storm, but it always ends in the place your heart calls freedom. There's something I want you to always remember, Sagittarius. No change in life is ever random, especially when it touches the three sacred things: love, finances, and your sense of safety. Because we can endure a lot, but when those three start to shake, we feel completely lost. And if recently you felt all three being tested at once, please don't think life is working against you. What's really happening is that the universe is peeling back layer by layer. Not to leave you empty, but to clear the way for what's truly meant for you. Love is no longer a place to endure. It's the space where you grow in truth. I used to think love meant holding on. That if a relationship had survived years and struggles, it was worth keeping at any cost. Until I realized, love isn't measured by how long it lasts, but by how honest we can still be with each other. If you're in a relationship where you have to hide your true feelings, where you're always carrying the emotional weight to keep the peace, where you think, I need to be better so they'll love me more, then ask yourself, is this really love? Or just an attachment? Wearing the mask of love? Astrology teaches, when the seventh house, the realm of love and marriage, is challenged at the same time as the fourth house, the home, this is a time when you're invited to face the truth. Don't try to rebuild a house with broken bricks. If your current relationship has become just a duty, then maybe the kindest thing you can do is to set both of you free. Not everyone is meant to stay forever. Some people come to walk beside you. Some come to awaken you. And some come only to teach you how to love yourself. So if today you're facing a big decision in love, I want you to ask one question. Am I still my best self in this relationship? If the answer is no, then even if it hurts, you already know what you need to do. If this touched you, write this down. I choose love that doesn't make me smaller, but helps me grow. That's the first step toward liberation. Have you ever considered that money isn't just a number, but a mirror reflecting your trust in yourself? Finances are not a measure of your worth, but a test of your faith. When something shakes the foundation of our home, after the initial emotions settle, the thing we fear most is usually money. We fear losing stability, fear losing income, fear not having enough for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our future. And that fear, especially for a Sagittarius who cherishes freedom, can feel like it's draining the life out of you. I've felt that fear before. When you stand between two choices, stay in a job you no longer believe in, just because it brings in a steady paycheck, or step into the unknown, the path your heart knows you're meant to walk. I chose my heart. I'm not telling you to do the same. But here's what I learned. Money can come easily, and it can leave just as easily. But once trust is lost, it's hard to get back. Astrology teaches that when Sagittarius is impacted by the second house, the house of values and money, especially under the influence of Saturn or Uranus, you will be challenged to redefine what abundance really means. You may lose an amount, miss an opportunity, but you will be taught how to live from inner strength, not from control. And that's when you learn the biggest financial lesson of all. True wealth is not in your wallet, but in your sense of inner solidity. If you're facing financial challenges, close your eyes and repeat, I am fertile ground, I allow money to flow to me easily and kindly. Because money is energy, and energy follows the frequency of your belief. The stability you seek isn't in a perfect home, but in true connection with yourself. Maybe you've been thinking, I just want peace, a home, a little quiet. Nothing extravagant. But ask yourself, what kind of peace? A kind of peace where you must hold your tongue, suppress your truth, and live halfway? Or a deeper peace, where you can take a full breath, without needing to perform? True stability doesn't come from pretty walls, or the numbers in your bank account. It comes from within. From being able to sit in silence with yourself, and not feel lost. From speaking your truth, even when it's inconvenient. From knowing who you are, even if the world hasn't fully seen your worth yet. For Sagittarius, this is the season to return the roles that no longer belong to you. You don't have to be the motivator all the time. You don't have to carry the weight for everyone. You don't always have to be the keeper of the flame. You just need to be you. Raw, awakened, and humble enough to know that what you need now is not a beautiful cage, but a true home. If you're still listening right now, place your hand over your heart and whisper, I'm learning to live differently, not because I'm wrong, but because I'm ready. You are not being abandoned. You haven't strayed from your destiny. You are being redirected back to the compass inside your own heart. The one that always knew exactly where you need to go. You are being reshaped to walk into a path that is more worthy, more free, more aligned. And if these words are stirring something inside you, please share this with someone you care about. Because on some restless night, they may need to hear this. Just to know they're not alone. Finally, if you're ready to begin again, write this down. I allow myself to return to rhythm, to truth, to love, and to the light within me. That isn't just a sentence. It's a doorway. And if you've walked with me all the way to this moment, then perhaps you've felt what I've felt. Your life is shifting. Not by logic. Not by plans. But by something deeper. A trajectory guided by the soul. You may not know exactly where you're headed. But you know, with all your being. You can't go back. You can't live halfway. You can't stay in a house just because it's familiar. You can't keep smiling when, deep down, you've been tired for so long. And I want you to know, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing weak about it. That's the sign you're becoming real. You're no longer pretending. No longer enduring just to be loved. No longer trading yourself to keep something already broken alive. You are Sagittarius, the sign of light, wisdom, and sacred pilgrimages. But this time, the most important journey is not out there. It's within you. You don't have to go anywhere to come home. The new home you're building is simply a more honest version of yourself. A place where you can breathe, be soft, cry, and smile without guilt. And if tomorrow brings something unexpected, a shift, a goodbye, a surprise opportunity, let it arrive as a sacred turning point. Because you've known it deep down for a while now. You just needed today to name it out loud. Before we part ways, please write this down. Or whisper it gently in your heart. I allow myself to enter a new chapter. With truth, with courage, and with an open heart. Because sometimes, just one sentence can change the frequency of your entire life. Thank you for being here. With me, and with yourself. And if this journey has touched something deep inside you, please share it with a tired soul. Because the light you're lighting today might just be what someone else needs to find their way home. We'll meet again in a brighter, more open home. And this time, you won't need permission to be yourself.